Hello and welcome to the next episode of Creating with Crystal. First off, I know it's been a little bit since I've made a video, and I really just wanted to do something a little bit different today. Something that I really don't do a lot of work with, and but recently I've seen some really cool ideas, or had some really cool ideas of things you could do with stamps. And so many years ago I actually got some actual stamps. Now these are all unmounted stamps. So this is one. This one is a really pretty happy birthday stamp set, and it has some little cupcakes, a stamp that says happy birthday to you, and then another little cupcake. And I've never really used many of these stamps, but they're very pretty, and they're a little bit different than stamps I'm used to, since as a child, you know, you have a stamp with a piece of wood on it. But these, however, don't have that on it, and they actually have a little clean background. So I didn't really understand when I got these how these were supposed to be used without getting your fingers all dirty. So today I'm going to be playing around with some stamps, and we're going to make a cute little greeting card. I have a friend whose birthday is coming up really soon, and so I figured I had these cute stamps, and why not use them. So this will be a first trial for me. I'm really not very familiar with making stamped projects. So I'm going to be working on B Paper Company watercolor paper. This is their 100% cotton paper for watercolor. And this board you see under here is just a canvas that's flipped over. I use it for art, as like a mat, so that I don't just keep dirtying up paper and dirtying up my work surface. And then when I'm done with this canvas, it's a really cool thing. You can just gesso over it and paint something beautiful on it. So this is the card. This paper is 6 inches by 9 inches, and I'm actually going to stamp, and then I'm expecting to be able to do some watercolor on it as well. So here we go. So I went to Hobby Lobby, and I found out how you're actually supposed to use these stamps without mounts. So this is an acrylic block. This one's by Stampabilities. It is 3 by 3. So these little grids on here are 1 by 1/2 inch grid, and you can actually take these stamps and put them on the block like that, and they're supposed to stick, and they do. So you can kind of moosh out the air underneath, and it's actually pretty well adhered on there. And then when you're done, you just peel it off. So that's really cool. I think that's a cool idea. I didn't know exactly how cool it was when I got it. It was more just I got them, they were probably on sale. I even got some cute little what do you call this, a ladybug, and a little flower. These were 49 cents on clearance. They say we're $1, so I'd pay $1 for them. Kind of cute. But today I'm gonna be doing a stamp for this card, and I am going to measure out a midway point for this card, just so that I know how far I should or shouldn't go. So I'm just lining it up on my mat here, and then I'm going to use a piece of scratch paper so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so 4 and a half, 4, half, 1, 2, 3, 4, isn't quite right, that's what it says, right there. Should give me the halfway point of the paper. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, should be right, 4.5. So I'm not going to stamp anything above that line, because that's where I'm actually going to fold it in half, and we're going to have a folded card. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure I line up the bottom of the cupcake so that it's nice and square on there. And I'm thinking I'm going to do a nice cute little cupcake right here in the middle. Or no, we're going to do two side by side. So we're going to put the first cupcake right here. And I bought some Noir Black Palette Hybrid Ink Pad. It's acid free, so it should be archival safe. So yeah, acid free, archival, non-fading. All paper surfaces use heat set on glass, fabric, wood, plastic, metal, and clay. Raised felt pad, inks any size stamp, crisp, bright, and non-bleeding impressions. Fast drying, waterproof. So I did get an ink that was waterproof, or an ink pad that was waterproof, because I do want to watercolor these stamp designs. Excuse me while I get this open. I probably should have opened it before I turned on the camera. This was $5.99 at Hobby Lobby. Of course, you use your 40% off coupon. Okay, cool. So it has like a little lid, fits over the top. Nothing super fancy to write about home here. It does. I expected it to have a little bit of a smell, but it really doesn't. Make sure you can see in the frame. Sorry, there's a lot of materials for the project I'm working on today, so that's why you see a lot of little extra stuff. Let me clean up a little bit of this. So, okay, so just gonna take this ink pad and just ink it liberally. And then I'm just going to kind of line this up, and I'm just eyeballing it. Sorry if my face is getting in the shot. I'm just going to line that up right about here and give it a nice press down. I mean, I'm really pressing on it here. And then lift straight up. Oh, that's really cute. I love that. Let me lift it up so you can see it a little better. It's a nice little cute cupcake. Wow, that's so cute. I love that. Yeah, that's adorable. So we're going to take that stamp off, and we're just going to do both little cupcakes sitting right here next to each other, like that. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the line on, so this has like a little grid on it. So I'm just going to use the little line to line up the cupcakes, the cupcake on there. The grids would be really nice if you have a alphabet set, stamp set. I do not have an alphabet set stamp, but if you were making your own little phrase, you could use the grid to line it up. So this time I'm going to try going this way, see if that makes any difference. Last time I did the stamp on top, and I'm just kind of lightly doing that like this. That looks like that's pretty good. Probably should cover that after I ink. And I'm just lining up with the bottom of the other cupcake. And having these clear blocks are really nice, they seem like, because with the wooden stamps you're always kind of guesstimating where the stamp is going. And with these, oh, I shifted around a little bit, but that's okay. It looks nice either way. So yeah, so you can see a little bit of blur on this side where I actually had the stamp down and it kind of shifted just a little bit, and so you got a little blur. Well, that's okay. It's a handmade stamp. It's okay if it has handmade characteristics. And So let's put this back on my little mat here. So I don't want to do just the cupcakes, so I'm going to do well, actually I kind of like it with just the cupcakes. So while that dries, I'm going to try not to press down in here, but I'm just going to take the card and make a little notch where the two lines are. Okay, and that's going to let me see where on the other side, when I flip it over, where I need to be. So now I know I don't need to go above those two notches. Okay, and this time I'm going to do the happy birthday stamp. Now this stamp is a little bit bigger than my mounting block, which may or may not be a good thing. We'll see. So I'm just going to again press that on here. I'm just lining it up on the thing so that it's parallel, so I'm stamping crooked. Okay. So I'm going to take my ink pad again. I'm not pressing super hard on the ink pad. I'm just making sure that everywhere gets inked, especially on the little parts that hang over. And I'm just going to stamp this little greeting inside of here. So now this is on the inside of the card. So I'm just going to push down. I am going to take my finger and kind of press down on the side ones here, because they don't have that acrylic block, so they may not be making as nice contact. And so I'm just going to lift straight up. And we have a beautiful greeting that looks awesome. Wow, I can't believe I waited so long to use these. So that has a wonderfully nicely stamped greeting on the inside. Look at that. Make sure you guys can see that. It's a beautiful little greeting. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. So as long as you're not pressing on this, I don't believe this will fade. But if you have a heat gun, you can definitely hit it with a little bit of heat and go ahead and set that ink in there. So let me move my stamps, because that's the stamps I'm going to use for this card. And we're going to go ahead and add some color. And I'm going to be using watercolor, but if you have, distress oxide inks or something else that you prefer using, by all means use that. I'm just going to slide my paint kind of in here so that y'all can see everything. I initially tried to do some stamping a long while back with some of my calligraphy ink, and it worked to a degree, but it was very blurry and the ink was inconsistent. The ink that I used was Higgins calligraphy ink, which is great, wonderful stuff for calligraphy. It really just wasn't applicable to this. I applied it to some stamps with a paintbrush and then just stamped them on there, and it worked to a degree, but like I said, if you look in here, you can tell how patchy the ink was. It wasn't an even application. So that was a little thing I tried, but it really highlighted the fact that I was going to have to go with something a little better. So next, let me get you lined back up here. Sorry. So I'm actually going to zoom in just a little bit on the area so that you're just seeing what's relevant. And so I'm going to do a little painting, and I'm thinking I want the cupcake on the left to be a pink icing cupcake because I love pink cupcakes. Even if the cupcake doesn't taste any different, I have a thing for pink cupcakes. And I'm going to use a watercolor brush. I'm going to make sure this is completely dry though. And I'm just using a cheap little the Fine Touch watercolor brush. I'm going to use that one, and then I'm also going to use a Cotman number 2 Designers brush. It's in that line. So I'm just going to wet these. And I'm going to grab a little bit of pink. So I'm just mixing up some colors. I actually already had some pink on my palette that looks like it might actually be perfect. I may have to switch to a larger brush, but we'll see. This will work. No, I think I'm going to need a bigger brush. I was thinking the space was a little smaller. Let's go with something. So this is a Winsor & Newton Cotman number 6. So that's quite a bit bigger. Just going to load this up on here. Oh yeah, that's definitely the size range I want to be in. And I'm just going to lay a nice base wash in here of pink. And these are Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors. This is the palette you saw. It's not in the shot right now, but this palette is the 45 half pan set. The Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors actually only have 40 colors in their line, but they give you 5 duplicates in this set of some of the more popular colors. So I'm just taking a little bit of yellow ochre, oh no, raw sienna, I'm sorry, raw sienna, and then a little bit of burnt umber, kind of mixing up a tan color, any kind of light brown, essentially. Just kind of the color of cupcakes. And I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to go over the whole little base of the cupcake. Alright. And while I have that color already mixed up, actually no. So this other cupcake, we're actually going to make it a chocolate frosted cupcake, I think. So I'm going to get some nice brown mixed up here. So this is a nice deep brown. This is burnt umber I'm grabbing here. It's just double checking the color there so I don't tell you the wrong thing. I'm not going to go for a super duper dark brown, but just a nice chocolatey, like a cocoa kind of color brown. I'm avoiding the little hearts and the sprinkles as best I can. If I get a little in them, that's no big deal. You may consider switching to a smaller brush if you're having trouble. So tell me in the comments some things you'd like me to see, like to see on the channel. If you like seeing stamping tutorials and watercolor, let me know, because can tailor the content to what people actually want to see. So yeah, I like to try new things, and so if there's something out there that maybe you're unsure about, or a technique you want to see, drop it in the comments. I mean, I can't guarantee you I'll get to do it depending on what it is, but it'd definitely be interesting to know what you guys are interested in learning about. And you know, I want this to be, you know, I'm doing this for the first time. You're seeing it. This isn't edited in any kind of way. I didn't do a bunch of mock-ups or anything. You know, you're seeing this exactly as I'm doing it here. So, you know, you can see everything that you could expect when you're going in and doing this yourself. So now I'm going to mix up a much thicker mix of burnt umber. I'm almost going to have basically no water on my brush. And I'm just going to come in here and do kind of the under the cupcake part. It's funny because I'm putting a chocolate cupcake on here. The friend that I'm sending this to, she does not like chocolate. Go figure. But she loves cupcakes, I think, so. Now, I probably should have let these two areas dry before I came in here and put these two wet areas together, but I think it'll be okay in the long run. But if you're really worried about the colors bleeding together, just give one color time to dry before you apply the next. That way you won't get things running. Same thing on over here. Okay, now I am going to switch to a smaller brush. So to that first brush I had, I'm going to go in here and get a little bit of red. So now I want a more traditional red, less pinky. So I'm going to get, let's see, I'm trying to tell you some of these color names. Oh, I should have known that. This one's a alizarin crimson. So that's a pretty cool red, what I would consider a cool red. I'm not going to add very much water. It'll be a nice heart red. And what I'm going to do is just go in and just paint in the heart on top of here. And with that same alizarin crimson, I'm going to come in here and do the hearts on the chocolate cupcake. And I'm going around the edge of the little heart. And you don't have to have these exact same stamps. So, you know, if you have something else you're stamping, all the same principles apply. And now I'm going to use, again, a lighter pink to come in and do, this is more like a fuchsia. It's pretty bright. probably would use something a little less bright if I were to do that again. I'm actually just sucking a little bit of that off. I'm lightening it up just a little bit. And the way I'm doing that is I'm just rinsing my brush and then pulling a lot of the water out. And that allows you to kind of lift the colors. One of the things about Cotman Winsor and Newton Cotman colors is they're very liftable in general. Most of their colors tend to lift off the paper pretty easily. So if you put something in and you don't like it, chances are you can go in with a wet brush and get rid of that if you don't like it. Just be careful that you don't get too vigorous with your removal, because you can tear paper if you're working on a thinner paper. If you're going to do a lot of lifting, or you intend to, start off with a thicker paper. That way it's less likely to tear in the long run. So for this other heart, I'm actually decided I wanted to do the same color, these two hearts on top of this one. So I just got a little bit of color there. A little bit of paint. Yeah, a little bit of color. I'm just going to add those in. Alright, and I would probably consider those two done. I am going to let that dry before I proceed. So let me just show you a more close-up shot. You can see it's still shiny, particularly in the areas that were most recently painted. But before I do that, I actually decided I'm going to add a few shadows in here. So I'm going to take the same pink that I used for the cupcake, but I'm going to get a more saturated color, so less water, add a little less water, and everywhere that might have a little bit of a shadow on it, I'm just going to come in and so around the edges, just kind of darken it up in places, just so it's not so flat. If you want it to look more cartoony, then I recommend letting it be a little more flat, less shading. So yeah, I'm going to add a little bit again of that burnt umber, just a little bit, right up underneath the cupcake, underneath the frosting. Cleaning my brush, squeezing a little bit of water out, and just kind of blurring those together. So the cupcake looks a little bit more 3D. So I kind of did that down here, but I'm working from dark to light. But I am going to take just a little bit of burnt umber and put on the cupcake up top, just a little bit around the top piece. I'm talking like a little bit. Like I said, these colors are very liftable. If you decide, oh, I really don't like that, wet your brush and just pick it back up and it will come off, like if you're using the Winsor and Newton paints. Okay, so I really like that. I like how that turned out. So now that I need to, so now that I've added that shading, it just gives it a nicer dimension. Looks really nice. So now that I've done the cupcakes on this side, you can't forget the greeting on this side. So the card's going to fold like this. So always make sure your card's going to perform the right, flip the right direction. So I'm going to pause the video, and all I'm going to do is go dry this really fast. Okay, so I am back, and this is now dry. You can always tell by if you put your hand on it and it's not cool to the touch, then it's dry. So now let's do this inside piece, and this part is going to be pretty simple. I do want to keep the kind of color scheme consistent from this side of the card to the back side of the card, or to the inside of the card rather. So I have a lot of pinks. The chocolate, the pink and brown are really the theme. So I'm going to try and keep with colors that are consistent throughout the card, so you don't get like, I don't know, visual like whiplash almost, because of the colors changing so rapidly. So I'm going to use some of that same alizarin crimson to color in the little hearts inside. I used a very juicy mixture of that. It's pretty wet, so if I tilt the page you can probably see that glistening there. And I'm going to mix up a little bit more of the burnt umber mixture. I don't know if you guys want to see the color mixing or not. If you do, leave a comment, and in my next videos I'll make sure those are included. Some videos I include the palette, and then I don't know if it's really necessary. I don't know if people really want to see it or not. So let me know, and if we do want to see it, I'd be more than happy to make sure it's included. Otherwise, I'm just including a more zoomed up view. So I'm just going to color paint in the background with a nice brown. So now this almost looks like which if you'd have painted this a different color would look maybe like a cloud or something. Or you paint it to where it looks like a piece of fabric. So I'm just going to come in here. And if you want to get a nice flat wash, so I'm trying to also avoid getting in those hearts. Getting right up to the edge of them, but not getting on them. So if you want a nice flat wash across your image, one, make sure that you keep the edge of your paint wet. So on the edge, by the edge I mean the direction you're going and you're painting next needs to stay wet. If it dries, that's how you get lines. And there's nothing to say there's wrong with having a line, unless it's not what you want. If it's not what you want, then just make sure that edge stays wet. Different types of paper absorb the water faster or slower. So get familiar with your supplies. Maybe do some test gradients to see how, we'll clean that up in a minute, to see how well your paper stays wet. It doesn't, I don't feel like it needs to stay wet forever. It just needs to, if the paper is really, really thirsty, it can be kind of difficult, for me at least, to keep a wet edge. This paper, surprisingly, is pretty thirsty. It dries pretty quick, so you have to work with a pretty juicy paint, or it just, it can be very, your paint can look very blotchy on it. So, but if you keep it wet, it's fine. It's really nice paper. I only have it in this one size at the moment, but I'm tempted to try some of the bigger sizes of it, because it really is nice paper. So I'm just rinsing my brush off, and now we have a really cute little thing here. We're still drying. I'm trying to tilt. I'm actually tilting my paper a little bit to discourage back running, where you get blooms and things like that. I kind of let my paint dry a little bit too much over here. But while we do that, I'm just going to take a nice damp brush, and I see where it kind of went out of the lines here. And actually just work that up, so just wet it. And I'm just using very light pressure. Need a tissue. I don't have any on my desk, surprisingly. So kind of make it work without. I don't know where all my napkins have gone. Oh well. Just happy accidents. That's fine. Alright, so same thing with this one. I'm going to quickly hit this with the hair dryer. Give you an up close view so you can see it's still shiny. I'm going to quickly hit this with the hair dryer. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and this is dry, so you can see how the color has gotten a little bit lighter. Not much. The Winsor & Newton Cotman colors, I feel like, don't have too much color shift. They do lighten upon drying. So now this is all dry. All dry. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so that you can see what I'm going to do next. So this is all that's left, is to fold the card. And this is always the most nerve-wracking part for me, because it tends to be something that you can mess up a little bit easier. So one thing I like to do is basically just take a card and pinch it on the edges. So now my edges cannot move. And there are scoring cards you can get. I know about them. I don't make enough cards to need one right now. So I'm just going to take something that's solid. I'm moving my paints out the way. And just rolling it upwards. So not smashing down on the crease just yet. So I'm just rolling towards the crease. Okay? So now you can see it's creased and it's folded, but it's not super solid yet. So Now I'm just taking my fingers and pinching it down. And then I'm going to take a tennis ball, which is soft, and we're just going to roll it on the edge to gently crease it so that you don't get a really rough crease. And that's how I crease my card. Does anybody else crease their cards out there like that? I doubt it, but it works well. One of the secrets I find for folding thick paper, like thick watercolor paper, is do it softly. Don't try and do it super quick or super fast, because it will crease weird. Now I do have a little bit of the pencil marking. I don't even know if you can see it, but I can see it, and so I'm going to show you. How I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just going to take my high polymer eraser and go across the top. These erasers are wonderful. They don't tear your paper and smudge and all that. So I just ran that across the top. You could alternatively just leave the line there. But there we go, and then we have a nice cute little birthday greeting. And I hope that everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments things that you'd like to see me do. Would you like to see more cards, more paintings, more whatever? More product reviews and things like that. I'd be more than happy to do that. But until next time, thank you for creating with Crystal.